And if you don't mind, Redemptor and Mumbi, I would like to just give us just a short synopsis of the history of this sort of thing. In 1887, after the Berlin Conference of Otto von Bismarck, it was called the Prussia Conference, a man which started what you call the Scramble of Africa. The British came to Kenya, and they came to Kenya with a company called Royal East Africa from India. And they came for three things: to come here, to extract for wealth for themselves, to exploit the inhabitants of the country, and to dominate. Those were their three goals. I call them EED. Those goals were clear, and they set up a system of doing just that. The Scramble for Africa was a premise because the Europeans were fighting so much for the little wealth they had in Europe that they decided there's a new place that has been discovered that needs to be conquered. And they felt they had some very naive natives who did not know the world, and they were going to come and conquer us and exploit us. By 1902, that company called Royal East Africa Company had become Imperial British East Africa Company. And in 1902, Kenya became a protectorate of the British government. That company, which came to exploit, which came to extract, which came to dominate, the individuals of that company in 1902 started forming themselves as the civil service of Kenya, the new protectorate under the British regime. So a company which came here to make profit suddenly became the government. The sole purpose of a company is to try and make profit. So that company which wanted to make profit decided now they are going to govern to make profit. So they became the government, they became the civil servants. And the policemen that were created at that time were the watchmen of those companies and the individuals, the settlers that had formed in 1902. The watchmen. So the watchmen were to protect them. Everybody outside was a problem, was an enemy of the people inside. That system was further embedded in 1920 when we were formally colonized by the British regime. Now, fast forward. Tell me what has changed. The civil service, the government machinery, does nothing else. It extracts from us, it exploits us, and it dominates us with their police and their security systems. We changed the white colonialist for an African colonialist that continued the same thing. In 2010, the new constitution gave us more power to fight that dominance of extraction, exploitation, and domination of the police. But you can see, because we have been unclear about exploitation and extraction, the powers that be are still using the police, no matter what their limitations in the constitution, and the power we have as their sovereign to continually dominate us. How do we stand and sit here and talk when up until today, our freedom fighters of the recent revolution, the one that is going to change Kenya completely and absolutely, 60 plus are said to have been killed. Some figures go up to even 200. We have people being abducted. I am still alive. I'm still here. You can frustrate me with communication, but we are still moving around. We are still breathing oxygen. There are people who have died. There are people like my friend Bob Jage and the two Longton twins who came to see me in Kamkunji when I was illegally arrested. I say illegally because the police had an order saying you cannot arrest him, and they chose to ignore that order to tell you that they are taking orders from somewhere else. We've seen the lack of accountability of our IG. Those three young men visited me in Kamkunji, and when they did, Soon after, giving comfort to friends and family who were in Kamkunji outside and singing some good patriotic songs. On their way home, they were abducted. This is now over 5 weeks. We don't know where they are. This is the Kenya that we are living in the year 2024. Really? Really? 2 years just after an election? So-called the most democratic election some Western observers and diplomats have stated. 2 years after? This is the Kenya? I can tell you this, that William Samoei Ruto is a very frightened man. These are the tactics of an extremely frightened human being. I think they are still shell-shocked with what Gen Z did. Still shell-shocked. But I can also tell you this, that they know they cannot solve the problem. They know that that uprising can and will come up again because there's an underlying problem. Reject Finance Bill was but a trigger. But as you saw, even after it was rejected, people stayed on the streets because pain is still being felt. Serious economic pain. And this economic pain, unfortunately, this regime cannot solve. This pain was created, and I can tell you this with a certainty. It was created 12 years ago when the two of them came to power, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and William Samoei Ruto. I did their MOU. William Samoei Ruto took the anchor of the treasury with his minister called Rotich. That is when a regime decided they are properly going to extract from us. They are going to exploit us as their Kenyans, and they are going to dominate us. And they chose to do so economically. Today, we are slaves